So thank you everyone for attending this evening on this slightly cold and slightly dark autumn evening. I appreciate you coming along online. It's great that we've got Law here this evening to tell you a bit more about the internships that Get Into Teaching offer, the process, and most importantly, how to apply. So I will pass over to Law now. Thank you, Law.
Thank you, Nathan. Good evening, everybody. So my name is Losali, and I work for Get Into Teaching as an Explore Teaching Advisor. And I don't know if you attended the presentation about teaching last week, but we offer some teaching internship in the summer. And the purpose of this little workshop is basically to give you tips to get the best chance for you to be successful in applying to this internship. Um, So next slide, please, Nathan. So this is what we are going to cover today. Okay, I let you read. Okay, so first of all, we are going to talk about what to expect from the teaching internship, and also we are going to talk maybe a little bit about who can apply. Next slide. So the teaching internship I've been running for quite a few years now, and they are open to undergrad and master student who are potentially interested in exploring teaching in physics, chemistry, biology, computing, and modern foreign languages. For the modern foreign languages, we are looking at Spanish, German, and French only. So you don't have to do a degree, for example, in physics. It's as long as it's kind of related to the subject you want to do the internship in. So what I mean by that is, for example, if you are doing a degree in mechanical engineering, you could, or in astronomy, you could go for physics or even the math internship if that's what you're interested in. And the same for if you are doing, for example, a degree studying for a degree in biology, and there's a reasonable amount of chemistry in it, you could be looking to applying to the internship in chemistry and so on. Okay, so what can you expect from the internship? So the last 3 weeks, they are only in England, okay? And they take place in June and July for 3 weeks in a variety of schools. So there's always a school kind of near you. So what can you expect of what to do during the internship? Well, the idea is for you to basically get a test of teaching. Nathan, please. So during the 3 weeks, what you will be doing in the first week, you can expect basically to do a lot of observing lesson, because this is actually how you learn to teach, by observing experienced teacher. Also, depending on your level of confidence, you can expect that very quickly you are going to be used as a teaching assistant in the class to support student. You might also be asked to take little group of students who need extra support, or to do some one-to-one activity or small group activities. And also, you, as you're gradually going to build your confidence, you can expect probably around the 3rd week to be invited to deliver a whole lesson or part of a lesson. So you will get a real taste of what it's like to stand in front of a class. I know it sounds very daunting at this point to do that, but usually during your internship, you are going to get yourself little workshop about the basics of teaching. So you will probably get a workshop about how to plan a lesson, classroom management, safeguarding, of course. So by the time you get to the 3rd week, you will have a fair idea of, how to plan a lesson. And in any case, you'll be supported by the department you work in. You can also expect to take part to the life of the department. So what do I mean by that? You might be asked to produce resources, to create displays, to participate to open evening if there's some, and also to the wider life of the school. So you get a real idea of what it's like to be a teacher. Some schools also try to not limit your experience to the science, the maths, or the MFL or computing department, and send you to observe other lessons. So you get a flavor really of what teaching look like, not only in your subject, but also in other subject. Okay, next slide, please. So what can you get from it? Well, the first good news is that you are actually going to get paid. Okay, you will get paid £425 a week. So that is seen not really as a salary, but more of a bursary to cover the cost that you might incur by doing the internship. So for example, transport, etc. Okay, the idea behind the internship is to try teaching before you apply for a teacher training course, or maybe even if teaching is just something you're vaguely interested. For many of the people who who take part in the internship, it actually helps them to make a decision if it would be the career for them. Okay, and also it can help you if you apply, if you're looking to apply to teach abroad or to do to do teacher training, if that's what you want to do and you know that already, it would certainly strengthen your application, but also it will just help you to build your CV. Teaching, a lot of people forget that teachers are actually very skilled people. There are so many skills that are used in the classroom on a day-to-day basis, and that internship would help you to develop those skills. I think also you would probably have the admiration of many people if they read that on your CV, because I'm not trying to scare you. This is the reality for many people. Standing in front of a class full of teenager is their idea of hell. So I think you would get quite a bit of kudos by doing that, and showing that you can do that. So as I said, there's loads of skills you can develop, particularly communication skills, um, adaptability, resilience, patience, but also teamwork that are really highly rated by employers. So even if you don't go into teaching, it's a good thing to do. So next slide, Nathan, please. So how can you apply? Nathan has put the link in the chat, but you've got it all also here. If you forget the link, you just go onto the Get Into Teaching website and type in the search engine the internship. Okay, so the first thing you need to do is to check which school are offering them, because not all schools offer them. You can decide to do the internship near your university, or you might want to decide to do it back home if home in your case is not around London. Okay, so it's explained in June and July, so I'm well aware that some of you might stop your accommodation for the summer, so that might be something to consider where you want to do it. Okay, the internship have opened since around the first week of October, so it's still early days to apply. The places are offered on a first come, first serve basis. So it depends, where you are geographically. Some schools are really popular because of their location. Some are a bit less. I would say in London that they are generally very popular. So I would encourage you to apply as soon as you can. They will close once they're full, but usually they close in any case, I would say in early May at the very latest, because there's quite a bit of paperwork to do before you start the internship. Don't be put off. There's a DBS, a criminal record check to do for the school, because obviously when you're going to work with children in England, you need to go through a DBS. You don't have to worry about organizing the DBS, etc. The school will do that for you, but sometimes it takes a little while for it to come through, and you want it to come through before the start of your internship. Otherwise, you can't do it. Okay. I'll be honest with you, and this is why I've put that in the bullet point. Schools sometimes are not very good at updating their website, so you might see some kind of deadlines, and when you look at the advert, you realize you've passed this deadline. I would just email them just to check that, sometimes they're still recruiting and they haven't updated. So make sure you get in touch with them. Okay? So you're going to see when you get onto the website, you can either download the application form. Sometime you have to write a little email to request the application form. So what to include in your email? I would suggest, you explain who you are, your degree, maybe explain if it's not quite clear how your degree is related to one of the subject of the internship, which qualification, what's your highest qualification, or which modules of your degree relate to the subject you want to do the internship in. It's always good to state that you've got GCSE Maths and English, grade C4 or above. If you have been educated overseas, or if you are an overseas student, you can apply. However, you might not have the GCSE because you might not have been educated in England or in a country that follows a British curriculum. So don't worry about that too much. If you've got your IELTS, I would put your grade that you got for your IELTS. That might be helpful. And I would also state when you end of term date is in the case of international student, because I am aware that most international students are on a tier 4 visa and that you cannot work full time during term time. However, you are allowed to apply for those internships and to complete them as long as the internship is the date is after, the date of your end of term date. Okay, so you might want to specify that your end of term date is on the, I don't know, the 15th of June, and the internship start on the 20th of June, so you should be all good to go. As international student, make sure you check the dates carefully. All the internship, I've got different dates between June and July. If the first one you look at is a date that the starting date for you that is during term time, look at the next one. It might be a bit later and you might be able to do it. Okay. Next slide, please. So the application, so you have to apply. So usually you have to put your personal detail, etc., and your qualification. And you also ask, usually it's a generic advice. Some application change slightly, but usually it's between 200 to 300 words asking you, why are you passionate about the subject you want to do the internship in? Why do you want to do a teaching internship? Any kind of relevant past experience you might have. Don't worry if you don't have any, and also the skills that you hope to develop during this internship, and obviously a conclusion that kind of round off why you could be potentially the best intern. Okay. Remember, you're not writing an essay, so every word can be very concise, but more importantly, please check your spelling and grammar. It sounds very basic to say that, but it's really, really important. And there are some internship schools who are absolutely obsessed with grammar and spelling, and they should be. You're going to teach to children after all, so make sure you check your application before you send it. And it's also, I think, very important to be honest about your endeavor. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about what you could kind of include in that application. So I would suggest that your opening line is basically probably your passion for your subject. So you need to think about what kind of things is making you tick about computing. Why are you passionate about languages? Why are you passionate about physics? What interests you? I would also say it's quite important that it's personal to you. So don't necessarily, fall into the cliche. It could be you telling a little story why you particularly like physics. It might be somebody who's inspired you to love physics. It might be something that you might like maths because you kind of, like to clear answer, work out things, everybody has got a personal reason. And the more reason, more personal it is, I believe, the more successful you will be. However, there is a huge difference between being personal and being a bit too much out there. So, fine, originality is fine, but when it becomes a bit weird, no, that's not a good idea. Schools tend to be fairly conservative institution. And in the same way, you're going to explain why you're interested in teaching. So I think the two are quite intertwined. You could talk about maths teacher you had that ignited your passion in maths and how they did that, and that's why you might want to go into teaching because they've inspired you and made a difference to you. You can talk about giving back, making a difference. If you do, and that's why you're looking at teaching, if you do that, make sure that once again it's personal to you. I don't think the first two sections about the passion for your subject and why you were looking into teaching or doing a teaching internship are too difficult. I think the one who are causing a bit more problem to people are about talking about the relevant past experience and the skills they've developed and the skills they want to acquire. So we'll move on to that to the next slide. I think you can click again, Nathan. I think there's little things that are going to appear. Okay, so the first thing I want you to think about when we talk about relevant past experience with the skills you've developed is to try to think, and maybe you could put them in the chat, which skills do you think are important to have as a teacher? So get onto the chat and type a few skills you think that are important, and we'll take it from there. Nathan, if you could get onto the next slide, but not click on everything straight away. I think if you do one more click, the speech bubble will appear. Yeah. So anybody got any idea of the skills that are needed to be a teacher? Anyone has got some suggestion? Communication skill, yes, very good. Confidence, yeah, that's a good one. Anything else? Resilience, brilliant, Mahmuda. That's my favorite one. Excellent. So I found that quite a lot of people find it really hard, especially when they think about a teaching internship and if they haven't worked really with children in any kind of volunteering or official capacity, to think about the skills that they have to become a good intern, a good teaching intern. So your starting point is to think about the qualities of a good teacher. So, in the chat, we've got communication skill, confidence, resilience, listening skills. We could add adaptability, creativity, all those that makes you a good teacher. So the problem that people hit sometimes is thinking, well, I, I don't have anything to kind of, talk about or done any job that shows that. Well, it's false. Okay, so I'll just show you a few examples. For example, if you've worked in retail, you will have developed communication skill. You will have to adapt to your customers. And sometimes you've also dealt with tricky customer. And it's the same with if you've worked in hospitalities, you've done the teamwork, you've been adaptable, you've been patient with customers. Sometimes you're lucky enough you don't have to have a part-time job, but most of you have, and you have to be very organized to juggle your studies with your shift, meeting deadlines, etc. So what's important is, first of all, the first step is to think about the qualities of a good teacher. And then you think about the jobs that you've done and basically think of the skills that you have developed with those jobs. And then when you've got the crossover, it's a case of explaining the skills you have and how they could be useful to the classroom. And the really important bit is for you to bring back those skills to the classroom and their use to the classroom. So as you can see, I've given a little example at the bottom. Whilst working in the kitchen of a restaurant, I developed my communication skill and understood the importance of teamwork, which was essential for a smooth service. This skill will help me in the classroom to deliver instruction, explanation, and to work with colleagues. So you show I've got this skill and I think it's going to be useful in the classroom because I'm going to need this to do that. Okay. Top tip, if you can include adaptability or resilience at some point as one of your quality, that would be really good. So, once again, it can be quite hard to think of example of resilience, but resilience is having a job and studying as well, or it's failing to do something and trying again. So make sure you mention resilience or adaptability as one of the skills you've got. You cannot cover all the skills that are needed to be a teacher because you don't have enough word. So pick the skills that you feel are the most important and also the ones that you've got and talk about them. And the key point here is to make sure that you explain why you think they're important in the classroom. Next one, please. So, after that, you need to talk about the skill you are hoping to develop during your internship and why. So it might be a case that you've done some tutoring and you want to take it to the next level to build your confidence to talking to a wider audience. It might be you want to develop your creativity, all those things. Think about that. That can be mentioned. It could be that you want to develop your adaptability. Okay, so make sure once again you pick a couple of skills and explain why you want to develop them and why they're important to have in the classroom. Next slide. And finally, in the conclusion, as I said, it's a case of reinforcing this idea that you've got all the skills to be a good intern and why you really want to get into kind of teaching. I would hint whenever possible why you want to do it in this particular school. So please do your homework, go on the website of the school, see what they are about. It could be a school with, quite a large student population which come from, multi-ethnic background. It might be a case that you aspire to be a role model. It might be a school that is really big on sport. It might be something you want to be hinting at. So be very careful if you are mentioning the school. It is this very fine line between showing that you've done a bit of homework and you know what they're about and um, why you want to apply, and this fine line about, over flattering them that doesn't go down very well. So basically, the main message is be subtle. Okay. Once you've sent your application, next slide. Thank you. You will be invited to an interview. So the interview, this is generic advice. The interview vary hugely in format. You will have some school who do basically 20 minutes Teams call to interview you and will decide if they will give you an internship or not. Some of them are going to ask you to do a little teaching episode of 5 minutes. They might give you a topic and say, okay, talk me through how you would teach that to some year 7. And you will have some school who are going to do a proper kind of interview format. Okay. The tips I'm going to give you is kind of general to any teaching internship interview, but it's actually also tips I'm sure you can apply to other internship you apply to. So very important before the interview, as I say, do your homework about the school, understand what they're about. There's loads of different school in England. They can be single sex, they can be face. Some of the school in the internship are face school. Some are in leafy area of the country. Some are more and more deprived area. So as I said, do your homework. Make sure also you have a quick look at the national curriculum for your subject. I know it might not be that long that since you left school, but to refresh yourself about what is taught at what age. It's very easy to forget or to assume, that a year 7 can do that. It's quite a long time ago. So remembering roughly what is taught when and also the subject covered is quite a good move. If you look at the GCSE and A-level syllabi, please do not read it back to back. There's a syllabi about 100 page each. What you want to look at is really the table of content and what is taught, and maybe look back onto an exam paper so you've got an idea of the format of the exam. It's also quite good to know and be aware of educational issues relating to the subject or hot issues in your subject at the moment in the UK. So have a look at the page of Broadsheet's newspaper, the education section. They have article regularly. Type maths educational issues. You might post 16 maths might come up. In languages, it's all about the fall in number, the fact that German is being pushed again to be taught. In computing, it's about really adapting a curriculum that match the need of AI, coding, etc. So just do a little bit of background research so you are aware. It's quite also important to understand how safeguarding work. It's a classic of not exam, internship interview to ask what you know about safeguarding. It's absolutely okay to say, well, actually, I don't know very much because I have never been trained in safeguarding. But sometimes you might be given a scenario, and it's a case of what would you do? If you don't know about safeguarding and you're given one of the scenario, use what I would say common sense and also err always on the side of caution. Safeguarding is here to protect the child. Okay, so really important. Next slide. Okay, more tips. Dress professionally if you got the interview. If it's in person, obviously dress smart. Don't buy an outfit especially for it, but I don't think it's a good idea to turn up in jeans. Um, Make good eye contact. Once again, it's quite important if you're a bit shy and find it really difficult to establish eye contact. A common, a very well-known interview trick is to actually look at a point in the middle of the forehead that kind of gives the illusion that you're looking people in the eye. And also very important, and it's quite basic, is to sit straight and tall. When you sit down, even if it's on Teams and it's not in person, what tends people to happen is as the interview, uh, you know, carry on for 10, 20 minutes, people collapse eventually. So when you sit down, make sure you wedge your back at the very back of the chair, and that will kind of force you to stand tall for the whole duration. Smile, very important to be smiley, not to have cross arm or anything like that. Okay. Keep your hand in checks, which I haven't done. Maybe park them on your knees, because you want to be avoiding, scratching or twisting your hand. That kind of doesn't send a very good vibe to people. I know that when you are asked a question at an interview, you're always extremely keen to answer it to show how good you are. My little tip is you actually wait a couple of seconds before giving your answer for several reasons. The first reason is taking a couple of seconds help you process what I'm asked to talk about. Am I understanding correctly the question? How my answer is going to be structured? Because sometimes I found that when you ask people a question and they answer straight away, they end up sometime not answering the question at all, which is terrible, or the the answer is not structured at all. So take your time. Sometimes you don't understand what you are asked, and that's okay. So feel free, and there's nothing wrong with that. And I want to emphasize this to say, can you please reword the question? Okay. And there might be at times things you don't know because you've never come across that before. From my experience on being on interview panel, I think the best option if you absolutely have no idea about what you're asked about is to simply say, I am sorry, I have got very little knowledge on this topic, and you're being honest. If you take the chance to answer, bear in mind that it's very easy sometimes to see through somebody it's clear that they don't know what they're talking about. And I think it's better to actually acknowledge you don't know rather than trying to pretend you know and give loads of bad answer. Okay. Um, You need to make sure you know that when they speak to you during the interview, you're nodding, you're smiling. It's clear that you are interested. And typically, at the end of the interview, they might ask you if you have any question. Some people say it's okay not to have any question. I think it's always good to have some. I would suggest that because it's at the end of the interview, usually that's when you are quite tired. So what you might want to do is to have a kind of pre-prepared question so you're not caught short. So it could be something about in the with the internship, will I have the opportunity? I'm really good at football. I coach football outside of uni. Will there be the opportunity for me to, participate in extracurricular activity like football after school? That could be one of your questions. It could be a question about, um, what are you what's the dress code, what are the expectation for after school meeting, etc. So it's always a good safety net to have one ready at the ready. So if you draw a blank, here you go, you've got your question. You could also ask question along the line of, what qualities are you looking for in an intern? What are the tips you have for me to make the most of my internship? That kind of thing. Okay? Be yourself. That's the most important thing. They are not looking for a teacher. Okay? Because to be a teacher, you would need to train for 10 months. What they're looking for is for somebody who is enthusiastic about their subject, who seems adaptable, and who is quite interested in teaching. And that's what they are looking for. Okay, so if you've taken the step to apply and you've reached interview level, show your passion, show your interest. That's what they want. Next slide, please. So I've done this little workshop to help you apply, and I hope you've found it useful, but you can get more personalized help. Get into teaching is a department of the Department for Education, and basically we offer a free advisory service. So if you wanted some help with your internship application, you could sign for getting a get into teaching advisor who is like me, an experienced teacher, and we could support you with your internship application. We can review the application for you, give you some feedback, and we also can prepare you for your internship interview by doing a mock interview if necessary, giving you a list of questions you are likely to be asked, and if there was any issue, help you to practice those answers, so or to think of the answer so you get the best possible shot at your internship. Our support wouldn't stop there. If you were to get a place, we would support you as well through the internship, so you get, you know, you get the best experience out of it and the most out of it. If you're not successful with the internship, we could look at potential alternative for you to get a bit of experience in the classroom if that's what you want to do. Our service starts from the moment you're exploring till the moment you get a place, and stop till the moment you get a place on a teacher training course. Okay, so that's it for me. If you have any questions, please do put them in the chat. And then I think that'll be that. Nathan?